ဒီနေ့မနေ့ကပြောလက်စာရှိတဲ့ကိုခုမြောက်လဝတ္တကရတိလောကခေါ်တဲ့မာရတိနာအကြောင်းဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့ပြောပါဦးမယ်
This evening, Sayadaw is going to continue dealing with the subject that was introduced yesterday, namely the ninth army of Mara, gains, reverence and fame.
မနေ့ကပပ္ပစိတဆိုတဲ့ပုတ်ရဲ့တရုပ်ကိုငုံနေတဲ့အဓိပ္ပာယ်ပေါ်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေရှင်းခဲ့ပါတယ်ပြီးတော့တရားထုတ်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များဟာလောဘဒေါသမောဟကိလေသာတွေပယ်ထုတ်ဖို့ရာအတွက်သီလသမာဓိပညာကျင့်တရားတွေကျင့်သုံးဖို့ဒီလိုအတ္တမခေါ်တဲ့နေရာဌာနရောက်နေကြသူများလို့ဒီလိုတွေ့ထားဖို့လိုပါတယ်
The Pali word Paṇḍitā, usually loosely translated as one who has gone forth, was dealt with in detail yesterday by the Sayadaw, and he defined it as one who has gone forth from worldly affairs to a place where one could strive to extinguish or abandon the kilesas. He also talked about how greed, hatred and delusion and the other whole string of kilesas could be abandoned through the practice of sila, samadhi and panya, of morality, concentration and wisdom. The word asama in Pali, which is actually ashram in Sanskrit, ashrama, was also talked about as a place where one strives very ardently to abandon the kilesas. Sayadaw also wishes everyone present here to be appreciative of the fact that one comes to a retreat, one is at a retreat, a place where striving to overcome or abandon the kilesas can be made possible. And that all of you here share the same motivation.
ဒီတော့ဒီရောက်လာပြီးမှလူအပ်တဲ့အစာအသောက်အဝတ်နေရာထိုင်ခင်းနဲ့စေဝတ္တစာကိုမှပြည့်စုံလို့ရှိရင်ပြီးပါပြီဒါပေမဲ့လို့အပူတွေလိုချင်တာမျိုးပေါ့လေအပူတွေဝတ်ချင်တာအပူတွေစားချင်တောက်ချင်တာချမ်းသာသာနဲ့စိန်ရှိရှိနေရာဌာနတွေမှာနေချင်တာအခြားမလိုအပ်တဲ့လူသုံးပစ္စည်းတွေပေါ့လေရလို့ရေးအတွက်လုံးပန်းရတာအဲ့ဒါတွေမုံမြတ်မြတ်ပေါ့လေဖြစ်စေချင်တာမျိုးပြီးတော့မိမိဟာတရားထုတ်နေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ပဲတရားရသူပဲဆိုတာပေါ့လေဒီလိုနာမည်ကြီးကျင်တဲ့သဘောမျိုးလေးတွေထင်ပေါ်ခြင်းတဲ့သဘောမျိုးလေးတွေရှိနေလို့ရှိရဲ့အဲ့ဒါကိုယ်ကူမြောက်မာရတိနာနဲ့ရင်ဆိုင်နေရတာပါပဲ
The once a person has arrived at a proper retreat center, certain necessities and requisites of life should be available. You have proper clothes and proper shelter, accommodation and lodging. You have proper meals, and the basic necessities are seen to. The basic requirements are met, and one can proceed very wholeheartedly to practice meditation. However, there are times when such contentment does not arise. One feels starved of the usual luxuries that one is used to. One longs for more than just the few dresses or suits or pants that you have, and you want more, and one starts to long for other necessities, other luxuries, maybe a more comfortable kafu, or maybe something else that would really keep me warm when it's getting cold, and so forth. One starts to think of all these extras, and that could also be a hindrance that belongs to this 9th army of Mara. One could also take pride in the fact that one is a yogi, one is a great yogi. You come here and you sit and you walk and you're on top of the world, You are trying your level best, and you find that you get swept to Samadhi land, and so you feel very high, and that longing to be acknowledged as a great yogi too could be a hindrance that belongs to this 9th army of Mara.
တခုတော့ရှိပါတယ် ဒီလိုတရားအထုတ်ရာမှာစပ္ပယကရိယာယစံပါတိတိလို့ကျမ်းဂန်များမှာဣန္ဒြေ5ပါးထက်ကျောင်း9မျိုးပြတ်ထားတဲ့တွေကတစ်မျိုးတော့ရှိပါတယ်တင့်တယ်လျောက်ပါဆိုပြီးခြင်းအဖြစ်ဘာဝနာပညာကိုပြည့်စုံစေရမယ်ဆိုတဲ့အချက်ပြပါတယ်
Indriya 5 ပါးဖြစ်ကြောင်း5ပါး9ပါး
9ပါးရဲ့စပ္ပယကရိယာဆို
The scriptures tell us of 9 factors which would conduce to the development of the controlling faculties, the 5 controlling faculties that is very important in meditation. Of these 9, one of them is Sabbaya Kiriya.
Sabbaya Kiriya.
အဲ့ဒါဘယ်လိုပြောလဲ
တင်းတင်းလျောက်ပါကောင်းမြတ်အောင်ပြုခြင်းဖြင့်ဘာဝနာဉာဏ်ကိုပြည့်စုံစေနိုင်တယ်
One of the 9 factors is that which states that through proper action, suitable, appropriate activities, one may bring about the accomplishment of insight knowledge.
အဲဒီစပ္ပယကရိယာဆိုတဲ့စကားမှာစပ္ပယအယကျမ်းဂန်မှာ9မျိုးပြထားပါတယ်အဲဒီ9မျိုးတွေကအာဝါစစပ္ပယဆိုတာ နေရာထိုင်ခင်းအဆင်ပြေရမယ်ညှက်တရရမယ်ဒီကမ္မထာဌာနဟာနေရာထိုင်ခင်းရတော့အထူးပြောစရာမရှိပါဘူးမနာကောင်းပါတယ်ဒီနေရာဌာနမှာနေပြီးတော့အားထုတ်ကြည့်လို့မဖြစ်သေးတဲ့သမာဓိပညာတွေဖြစ်ပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ဒီဌာနဟာကိုယ့်အတွက်အဝဇ္ဇစပ္ပယဖြစ်တော့တာပဲ
Now this word sabbaya kiriyaya consists of two parts. The first one, sabbaya, means appropriate or suitable. With respect to the appropriateness of things, again 7 things are numbered, and one of them is suitability of accommodation, suitability of place. Now this center is undoubtedly suitable for meditation. It is well furnished and well supported. And if you do find that by staying in this place you make some degree of progress, you begin to experience certain insights or experiences which you have never had before, then one can attest to the fact that this is a suitable place.
ဒီတော့ဒုတိယကတော့ဂောကြရစပ္ပါယဂောကြရစပ္ပါယဆိုတာကတော့သုံးခံစားတဲ့ယဟန်တော်များနဲ့ပို့ပြီးတော့သက်ဆိုင်ပါတယ်သုံးတနေ့စာအတွက်သို့မဟုတ်တဏ္ဍစာအတွက်အသွားအပြန်ပေါ်လိဘာမှမကြာတဲ့သုံးခံယူဟာသုံးခံယူဟာမနီးဝေးဝေးဖြစ်ရမယ်လေဒီလိုဆိုလိုတာပေါ့လူများအတွက်ကတော့အစာရတော်ကြီးနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့အချိန်မကုန်ခဲနဲ့ပေါ့လေဖြစ်နေတာပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါမျိုးပေါ့အဲ့ဒီလိုဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကောကြရစပ္ပါယအလိုလိုဖြစ်သွားတော့ပါပဲတနည်းအားဖြင့်မကျက်စားတဲ့နေရာဌာနမှာမကျက်စားရဘူးတဲ့ကျက်စားတဲ့သွားတဲ့နေရာမှာသွားရမယ်တဲ့အဲ့ဒါလည်းပဲကောကြရစပ္ပါယထဲမှာအကြောင်းအားလျော်စွာထည့်သွင်းပြီးတော့ယူနိုင်ပါတယ်သမာဓိပြည့်နိုင်လောက်တဲ့နေရာဌာနမျိုးတွေပေါ့လေသွားလို့ရှိရင်သမာဓိပြည့်မယ်မရသေးတဲ့သမာဓိလည်းမရဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အဲ့ဒီနေရာမှာသွားရဘူးတင့်တော်တဲ့သမာဓိပညာဖြစ်နိုင်တဲ့နေရာဌာနသွားပါတဲ့အဲ့လိုဆိုလို့တယ်ဆိုကြပါစို့စဉ္ညာလျှောက်တယ်ဆိုရင်ဒီအတွင်းမှာလျှောက်လို့ရှိရင်လုံလောက်ပါတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့လို့ကျမ်းမာရေးအရာဆိုပြီးတော့ဘောရကလောင်းမှာထွက်လျှောက်လို့ရှိရင်ဟိုကြီးကဒီကြီးကဟိုရှောင်းရဒီရှောင်းရတဲ့သမားရထားတဲ့သမာဓိတော့ပြည့်ကုန်တာပဲအဲ့ဒီလိုဂောစရမျိုးကတော့အစင်းမပြေဘူးအတွင်းမှာပဲအာယုန်နေတဲ့နေရာဌာနလျှောက်တာကောင်းတာ
The second suitable thing is called Gochara Sabbaya in Pali, suitability of resort. In the days of old, or even in Buddhist countries, at the present moment, bhikkhus go out for alms round every day. And for a meditating monk, it is important for him to select a place, if it's somewhere out of the village, in the forest somewhere, a place which is not too far away from a reliable village and not too near. It should be at a safe distance from the village, and the village also should be a place where the monk can depend on for his daily alms round. With respect to yogis here, this suitability of resort could perhaps be applicable in the sense of the availability of food. If it's easily and conveniently available in the dining hall, in the kitchen, So that will constitute suitability of result. Another interpretation of this aspect is that one should not frequent or approach a place that will ruin one's samadhi, one's concentration. One should avoid going to places like busy places where there are lots of people and lots of activities which will distract you from your object of meditation and thus disrupt your progress in meditation. Sayadaw also notices that some yogis do their walking meditation not only within the precincts of IMS but go out and do it on the road. Now that may not be a very suitable place because one has to be on the lookout for cars and one can be distracted by any activities that might go on in the course of one's walk outside. It may perhaps be more suitable for yogis to confine their walking meditation to the compound of IMS.
Now that is Basa Sabaya. Basa Sabaya Sura Piosu Yene Sabira people Tinhi or Huboni. Yogi Soluchi Masa Desagama Bioya Masa Desagasura Yazaga, Yuazaga, Zizagari, what did being a Loki in a Bata Desagari, so in Shonshara. The Anna Bata Desagara, a Taita Shia. Piro Leve Tindore, Tiazaga, Naja, Taita Nebori. Didia Najalu Guma, Pidida the Mari, Leve Pibida Hari Leve, Tavido Tutela, Solution. Eddie Sagaha go to Sinjibabi.
The third suitability is that of speech. Suitability of speech refers to conversation as well as to the listening of to Dhamma talks. For yogis who are participating in an intensive retreat, it is of course advisable to refrain from any sort of conversation at all, especially conversation that pertains to worldly affairs. Even if there is some particular topic that is related to the Dhamma, one should exercise discretion in making a conversation with a fellow yogi. The same holds for listening to Dhamma talks. There's got to be a limit. One has to exercise one's discretion. If the Dhamma talk that one listens to helps to bring about concentration which has not yet arisen within oneself, or helps to develop one's present state of concentration, then one can say that such a talk is conducive to practice. It is suitable speech.
Yogi ma Jupi Tonine, Tiazagama, a Tainda Shia Melu Sotaro, Tainda Puima Komu, Soravoli, Eddie Check Leader for you, Nale Tabu Yichivare. Tiari, Debido, Horamu, Tiari, Debido, Jana Ramu, Tia Swinida Muboli, Luada de Pudwai, Edamakom. Luada de Pure, do it. Tibimia, Yin allowing me other Mimia Julusi. Tibim, machine man, Tibim, Majitwa, Tidwara, Tidwara, by the Yoga, let me pure Lucy, for you, Boa, Sajikane. Tiếp bên đi xí bà đấy. Ôi cái bây giờ cái gì nên làm gì đó, ở đi chơi đó bây giờ. Chỉ đi nhà đó, anh thấy mà gì vợ đó, ở đi chơi đó là.တရားတွေနင်းလာလို့ရှိရင်ယာဝိသသမာဓိပညာတရားလေးတွေမှာပြန်ပြီးတော့ဆွဲဥသွားနိုင်တယ်အဲ့တော့လောတော်ပဲကောင်းတယ်ဆွေးနွေးတာဆိုရင်မေးတာဉာဏ်တာဆိုရင်သာပြီးတော့ဆိုတာမသိလို့မရှင်းလို့မေးတာတော့ဒါတော့ကိစ္စမရှိပါဘူးလိုအပ်တာတဲ့ပို့သွားမကောင်းဘူးတရားနဲ့မပတ်သက်တဲ့ဘုဒ္ဓရာတွေဆိုရင်ပို့မကောင်းတာအဲ့ဒါတွေသတိထားဖို့သိအရေးကြီးပါတယ်
The statement that one should exercise discretion and understand the limits with regard to engaging in conversation that pertains to the Dhamma implies that if there's too much discussion, too much conversation, too much lecturing, too much listening to the Dhamma, then that would be harmful to practice. That would not be good. Of course, it is essential at times for us to engage in discussions, especially during times when we are unsure or confused about practice. But there should be a limit. If there is excess, then it would be more harmful rather than useful. So conversations, discussions, and even Dhamma talks should be kept to a minimum, to an appropriate minimum. And this is especially relevant to situations where the subject of the Dhamma discussion or conversation or talk may not be directly relevant to one's meditative practice. Anything in excess will be harmful, and it's like watering a plant with too much water or putting in too much fertilizers that would cause the plant to be destroyed, to die, rather than to nourish or to thrive. An excellent example can be seen in in the room upstairs, where the interview room, where there is a pot of plant, and Sayadaw's attendant, seeing that there wasn't much water, started to water it, and now it's fall in there rather than spring. For that.
Diana Nialu, Yavida Tamari Pinyali, Juidwa.
It would be the same for in meditation. Too much Dhamma talks, too much Dhamma discussion will make all your leaves of samadhi drop.
Now the Pukula Sabaya. Pukula Sabaya Suraga Kamatan Siari in a Povida Patepare. Sia Luda Pokuri. The Velo Dua Yogiga Tibogo Sianine Agubira Nika Ato de Ka. If you did the Mari Pinyari Pilame Pibida the Mari Pinyari Leve Tude Lame Solution. Eddie Bogu ha Pukula Sapaya Pibari.
The next sort of suitability is that of person. Suitability of person refers to the meditation master. If one is able to make progress in one's meditation, able to bring about concentration which has not yet arisen within oneself, or to further develop the concentration that one has already caused to arise within oneself by or through the guidance and instruction given by a competent teacher or master, then one can say that such a person is a suitable person.
ပြီးတော့အချင်းချင်းနေတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းပဲတူးနဲ့တူးညတ်တာမှုရှိပြီးတော့မိမိရဲ့သမာဓိပျက်စီးတတ်တဲ့အပြုအမူကြောင့်တစ်ဖက်သားပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေသမာဓိမပြည့်ကြပါစေနဲ့ဆိုပြီးတော့အထိုင်ထအသွားလာတကားအပိတ်အဖြူစသည်ပေါ့ညင်သာသာလေးပြုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲအချင်းချင်းဟာပုဂ္ဂလစပ္ပါယဖြစ်နေတာပါပဲဒီနည်းနဲ့စိတ်အနှောင့်အယှက်ဖြစ်တော့တရားတွေလည်းပဲတိုးတက်လာနိုင်ပါတယ်
Another aspect of this suitability of person can be seen in one's relationship with others, with fellow yogis. We should all bear in mind that all of us are practicing together and walking the same path, and be considerate enough to move around in a way that will not cause any person to be upset, to disrupt another person's concentration or mindfulness. This occurs to all activities, and especially to physical movements, when one moves around, when one opens the door, and so forth. If this is well taken care of, if one behaves very considerately, then we can be suitable persons with respect to one another.
ပြီးတော့ဘောဇနစပ္ပါယဆိုတာပေါ့လေစားတော့ရေးအစဉ်ပြေတာပေါ့အစဉ်ပြေတဲ့အစားအစာတွေရနေလို့ရှိရင်အင်းအပြည့်တင်းတဲ့အစားအစာတွေရနေလို့ရှိရင်ကိုယ်နဲ့သိမြတ်တဲ့အစားအစာတွေရနေလို့ရှိရင်အင်းအားတွေပြည့်တင်းပြီးတော့ကျမ်းမာရေးရပြီးတော့တရားတွေအားထုတ်နိုင်တယ်အဲ့ဒါလည်းအရေးကြီးတာပါပဲ
Another sort of suitability is that pertaining to food. Suitability of food refers to the diet that is appropriate for oneself. If food that one obtains is something which is suitable for one's stomach, then that would, of course, be ideally conducive for progress in meditation.
ဒီခုတော့ရှိပါတယ်လူတွေကစိတ်ထားခြင်းကမတူတော့အကြိုက်ချင်းမတူတာလေးတွေလည်းရှိတတ်ပါတယ်အများအတွက်ပေါင်းပြီးတော့ချက်ထားတော့ကိုယ်နဲ့ကိုယ်လိုရှိတဲ့အစာလေးတွေပါမလာလို့ရှိရင်ချက်ထားတာတဲ့စဉ်းနဲ့ပြင်ထားတာတဲ့မတွေ့လို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ထဲကတော့ဘာလေးလိုသလိုလိုပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီလိုဖြစ်တတ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုလိုနေလို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ကမငြိမ်တော့တရားထုတ်လို့မဖြောင့်လာလည်းရှိတတ်တယ်နေရာဌာနတွေရသမျှနဲ့တင်းတိမ်မယ်လို့ဒီလိုစိတ်ထားမျိုးရှိလို့ရှိရင်တော့အကုန်လုံးအဆင်ပြေသွားပါတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့လို့ငကူကြိုက်တတ်တဲ့ဟာလေးတွေမရရတော့နည်းနည်းတော့စိတ်လှုပ်ရှားတော့ထိခိုက်တတ်တဲ့ဟာလေး
However, since it takes all sorts of people to make the world, of course some of you and all of us have different preferences, likes and dislikes, and in a place where where food is catered on a mass basis, then at times we may not be able to obtain what we prefer. At times the food that we get may not be something that we have an appetite for. When that happens, that could cause a significant disruption in one's meditation due to this absence of some suitable food. However, if one is able to adopt an attitude of mind that is willing to be content with whatever that is served, rather than to look out for what one prefers, then this problem of being disappointed can be largely overcome.
ရောရတဲ့စိတ်ရှိပေမဲ့လို့တစ်ခါတစ်ခါမှလိုအပ်တာလေးတွေဝန်မလေးလို့ရှိရင်တော့ရထားကောင်းတာပဲရတဲ့အတွက်တရားမှာတော့အများကြီးထောက်ပံ့ဖြစ်တယ်
However, sometimes even though one may be mentally prepared to be content with whatever that one can get, still when the menu for the day is not to one's liking, it can cause some disturbance in one's meditation. Therefore, at times it might be useful, if it is not inconvenient, to fulfill this emptiness.
ဒီအနေနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ဘုရားလက်ထက်ကတရားထုတ်နေကြတဲ့ယဟန်၆ကျိရဲ့စိတ်နဲ့စိတ်ထားတွေကြည့်ပြီးတော့သူတို့အကြိုက်ပြင်ဆင်တဲ့အတွက်ပြင်ဆင်ထားတဲ့အတွက်တရားထုတ်ရပုံလေးတွေနည်းနည်းပြောပြစီဦး
In connection with this subject on food, Sayadaw would like to recount a story of a group of 60 monks who were meditating in the forest, and a lay supporter who managed to understand each of their likes and dislikes, and as a result contributed very significantly to their eventual enlightenment.
အဲ့ဒီတက္ကမကြီးရဲ့နာမည်ကတော့မာတိကာမာတာခေါ်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီတက္ကမကြီးကအဲ့ဒီယဟန်များအတွက်စာရေးတောက်ရေးစစရရပြည့်စုံဆိုပြီးတော့သူ့အသိနဲ့သူပေါ့လေသူများရဲ့စိတ်နဲ့စိတ်ထားမသိခင်ကတော့အများစာအနေနဲ့ပေါ့လေစီမံထားတာယဟန်တော်တွေလည်းပဲဒီဟာခံယူပြီးတော့လူခံပြီးတော့စားသုံးကြတာပါပဲတစ်ချိန်မှာတက္ကမကြီးကယဟန်တော်များထံကတဆင့်ပေါ့လေတရားထုတ်တဲ့နည်းတွေရရှိပြီးတော့အိမ်မှာပဲဝေယဝိဇ္ဇဆောင်ရရင်းကတရားအထုတ်တာအနာဂတိဖြစ်သွားတယ်အဘိညာဉ်ဒီမှာရသွားတာသူများရဲ့စိတ်နေစိတ်ထားတွေသိတာပြီးတော့ဒီဘသောတဒီဘစိတ်ကိုအဘိညာဉ်ဒီမှာခါရဲရသွားတာ
The name of this lay supporter was Matika Mata. She was a very devout woman, and she saw to it that the monks who were practicing in the forest were well supported, and she reasoned out by herself, or she tried to figure out very roughly what the monks liked and what they disliked, and tried her best to cook enough food for the 60 monks when they come for alms round each day. And it seems that one day this lay person approached the monks and asked them their subject of meditation, and they told her what it was, and she asked whether a layperson could do it, and they said, okay, yeah, sure. And so she took the meditation from them and went back very happily and started to meditate. And she did her meditation at home, and even while she was working, she was doing the various household chores, but she was being very meditative, always thinking of the subject of meditation. Eventually, she got enlightened and became an anagami, a non-returner. And because she had such fantastic paramis, she also obtained the abhinyas, the various psychic powers, like the deva eye, the deva ear, and the ability to read other people's minds.
သာသနာ့မြစ်ပြုပြီးတော့အိမ်မှာလူကိစ္စဆောင်ရွက်ရအတုတော့တရားတွေကတိတ်ထူးတော့မိမိမှာတော့မှဒီလိုတရားတွေထူးနေရင်မိမိရဲ့သားယဟန်နေမှာတော့တိတ်ထူးမှာပဲလို့သူ့အပိညာဉ်နဲ့ကြည့်လိုက်တဲ့အခါမှာဟိုကိုတော်မြတ်ဒီတိုင်းမှရှိသေးတယ်ဥပဒနာညာဘာမှဖြစ်သေးဘူးချူမှလို့လည်းဘာမှနေရာမကြသေးဘူးဒီတော့အကြောင်းတော့ရှိမှာပဲလို့ကြည့်လိုက်တာကိုနေရာထိုင်ခင်းအဆင်ပြေလားဒီတော့တပါးနဲ့တပါးတဲကြရလားစသည်ပေါ့လေအကုန်လုံးလျှောက်ကြည့်တာလျှောက်ကြည့်တော့ဒီမှာဘောဓနာသဗ္ဗာယမဖြစ်တာလေးတွေတွေ့တာကိုအဲ့ဒီတော့မှရဟန်းတော်များရဲ့အကြိုက်အစကြိုက်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်အစဖန်တီးထားတဲ့အချိုးကြိုက်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်အချိုးဖန်တီးထားတဲ့အချင်းကြိုက်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်အချင်းဖန်တီးထားတာပေါ့အင်းလေးတွေမှာချက်ထားတာကုတော်လေးလာတဲ့အခါကျတော့သူတို့အကြိုက်တွေ့သွားတော့ဖုံးပြရတဲ့အခါမှာစိတ်တည်ငြိမ်ပြီးတော့အားထုတ်လိုက်တာယဟန္တာတွေဖြစ်သွားတယ်တဲ့ပရိသမီတပ္ပဒယဟန္တာတွေဒီကြခင်ဖြစ်သွားတယ်တဲ့သိကောင်းတာပဲ
Well, so this lady, Amatika Mata, had actually been very devout in her religious duties. She was both devout in her religious duties as well as conscientious in her household chores, and on top of that she also spent a lot of time, in fact all her free time, meditating, the result of which she became enlightened and also endowed with the psychic powers. She was filled with great joy and a deep sense of gratitude for those monks who had given her the meditation. And she thought to herself, well, I'm such a busy person, having to look after my household chores as well as to feed the monks every day, and still have this little time to do my meditation. And yet the Dhamma that I've realized is really very special. I'm sure that my sons, the bhikkhus, must have done much better than I have. And so she made use of her psychic power to look into the minds of the 60 bhikkhus who were meditating in the forest. And she looked and she saw that none of them had even the lowest and most fundamental Vipassana insights. She was bewildered, and she started to investigate. Now, what's the matter? Is it because the place that they're staying is not suitable? And she looked into that and saw that no, it was not that. Is it because they couldn't get along with one another? She looked into that, and again it was negative. And so she started to look and search for the cause of their apparent failure. And finally she found that it was because of non-suitability of food. Some of the monks liked food that was just chili hot, and some liked sweet food, and some liked sour food, and some liked salty food, and some liked pepper, and some liked vegetables, and so forth. And because she had this very good and handy psychic power, she could see precisely what each of these monks really wanted. And out of great gratitude for what they had done to her and giving her the meditation and getting enlightened, she took great pains to prepare special food for each monk. And as a result of that, very soon, all of them became arahants. Not only ordinary arahants, they became arahants endowed with the fourfold discriminative knowledge.
ဒီကချက်ပြုတ်ရေးအဖွဲ့ကတော့ဘယ်ပါဝါနဲ့ချက်ပြုတ်စီစဉ်နေတယ်ဆိုတာဘုန်းကြီးကတော့မပြောတတ်ဘူး
Sayadaw, however, is unable to tell how the kitchen staff manages the food, work out the menu every day.
ဟိုတက္ကမကြီးကတော့ဟိုတက္ကမကြီးအဖွဲ့ကတော့ရဟန်းတော်တွေစီကနီးခံပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေအိမ်မှာလုံရင်ကြရင်တရားထုတ်တယ်နာဂန္တိဖြစ်သွားတာဘိညာဉ်ဒီပါရသွားတာဒီကခြေပြုတ်ရေးအဖွဲ့ကတော့အဲ့ဒီဟိုတက္ကမကြီးလို့အာထုတ်သလားအာမထုတ်ဘူးလားဆိုတာလည်းပဲသိချာမသိရဘူး
Well, Matika Mata had the good fortune to be able to get meditation instructions from the forest bhikkhus and persistently meditated in the midst of household chores and religious activities and became enlightened, to be endowed also with the various psychic powers. Sayadaw is unable to tell if the members of the kitchen staff are practicing in the same manner.
ဘုရားမကြီးကရဟန်းတော်ကြီးအရင်တရားထုတ်ရတယ်ဥဒ္ဓမှာလည်းပဲဝိယဝဇ္ဇသမားနဲ့တရားထုတ်တဲ့ယောဂီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေဘယ်သူကတရားအရင်ရမယ်ဆိုတာတော့ဒါတော့ရှင်းကြည့်ရမှာပဲ
The point worthy of note is that Matika Mata became enlightened ahead of the forest monks. Well, we can also see, it's difficult for us to see who will get enlightened first, whether the staff or the yogis.
ဒါမင်းနဲ့တချို့ယောဂီတွေကတော့ဘုန်းကြီးကပဲညံ့လို့လားသူတို့ကပဲလူလားတော့မသိဘူးပေါ့လေခယူသွားနည်းနဲ့တရားတွေအားထုတ်နေတော့တော်တော်နဲ့အားမရပဲဖြစ်နေပါတယ်
ယောဂီတွေယောဂီတွေ
တချို့ယောဂီ
However, Sayadaw is quite puzzled himself. There are some yogis who seem to be going at snail's pace in their meditation, and he wonders whether it's his fault in not being able to guide them properly or otherwise.
အဲ့တော့ခယူသွားနည်းကနေပြီးတော့နှုတ်တင်ဖို့ပေါ့လေဒီမှာမြင်းသွားနည်းတိုင်းသွားမှပိုကောင်းလိမ့်မယ်အခုတလကွဲနီးပြီအဲ့တော့နှုတ်တင်ပေးဖို့လိုပါတယ်
Well, Sayadaw says that it's almost a month and a half into the retreat now, and maybe it's better to go the speed of a horse rather than that of a snail.
ဒါပေမဲ့နောက်တလကျော်တော့ကြာမှသေးတယ်အများကြီးလာရှိပါသေးတယ်တကယ်ယူသည်နဲ့ကျိုးဆက်ဆက်အားထုတ်လို့ရှိရင်တရားတွေဉာဏ်ကြီးထူးနိုင်ပါတယ်
However, we still got one more month to go, and if you buck up at this moment, you still got a chance.
ပြီးတော့6ခုမြောက်ဥဒုသဗ္ဗယရှိဒီဟာနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့နည်းနည်းပြောစရာလေးကြံပါသေးတယ်မာတိကတက္ကမကြီးဟာယောဂီများရဲ့လူအပ်ချက်နဲ့တင့်တော်ချက်ဒီနှစ်ချက်ကိုကြိုက်ပြီးတော့အလုပ်လုပ်တယ်လူလဲလူအပ်ရမယ်တင်လဲတင်ရမယ်ပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီနှစ်ချက်ကြိုင်လို့ကြိုင်ပြီးတော့ဆောင်ရွက်လို့ရှိရင်စာရေးတောက်ရေးမှာအကုန်လုံးအဆင်ပြေပါတယ်
လူအပ်ချက်နဲ့တင့်တော်ချက်
လူကြည်နဲ့အနုချဝိကကမှာ
Another point that should be noted is that Matika Mata was a very intelligent woman. She looked into the necessities as well as the appropriateness of what was required by the monks. And these two points of necessity and appropriateness, if properly considered by the staff, could well be a useful tool in managing the center.
တစ်ဆက်တည်းပဲဖြည့်ဆွက်ပြီးတော့နည်းနည်းပြောချင်ပါသေးတယ်ပြည့်လက်တဲ့တော်ကာလကနာရဝိသထေးနဲ့ဝိသခာတက္ကမကြီးတို့ဟာတရားကိုတော်တော်လေးအားထုတ်ထားတော့သာသနာ့အနှစ်သာရသူတို့ကောင်းနားလည်နေကြတယ်ပြီးတော့ယဟန်တော်များရဲ့လိုအပ်ချက်နဲ့တင့်တော်ချက်ဒီနှစ်ချက်ကြိုင်ပြီးတော့အလုပ်လုပ်တော့ယောဂီယဟန်တော်များစိတ်တိုင်းကြဖြစ်တာကြီးပဲတဲ့သူတို့ရဲ့သာသနာပြုပုံလေးတွေလည်းပဲနှီးခိုးစရာပါပဲမှန်ကောင်းပါလား
Another inspiring account is that of Anathapindika and Visakha, the two very great lay disciples of the Buddha. They became enlightened Sotapannas quite early when they first met the Buddha, and throughout the rest of their life they spent much of their time helping to spread the Dhamma in a way that was that is perhaps worthy of emulation. Their whole attempt, their whole effort in trying to help to spread the Dhamma was based on these two principles of what was essential and what was appropriate.
နောက်6ခုမြောက်စပ္ပယကတော့ဥဒုစပ္ပယပါပဲဥဒုစပ္ပယကတော့အတိညာနဲ့အစဉ်သင့်လို့ပြုပြင်နေလို့ရှိရပါတယ်အေးရဲနှွေးအောင်ထွေးအောင်ပေါ့လေနေရတာပြီးတော့ပူအိုက်လို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲအေးအောင်လုပ်လို့ရပါတယ်အေးလွန်နေမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်နေလို့ထိုင်လို့ကမဖြစ်တော့စိတ်ကမငြိမ်ဘူးအပူအိုက်လွန်လို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲနေလို့ထိုင်လို့အစင်မပြေတော့မချမ်းသာတော့စိတ်ကမငြိမ်ဘူးဒီတော့အပူအေးမျက်မျက်တာတာဖြစ်ပြီးတော့အားထုတ်ရတာဒါကောင်းတယ်သူကအဲ့ဒါဥဒုစပ္ပယလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်
The sixth type of suitability is called Uttusabaya, suitability of weather. Of course, everybody knows that the weather is very changeable, but man has this very fantastic ability to adapt to the weather. No matter how hot or cold it may be, we can be we can exercise ingenuity in protecting ourselves from the elements of heat and cold. If one is not able to do that, if one is exposed to excess heat or excess cold, it would make practice very difficult. Nevertheless, it would be best to be able to practice in an even climate where there is not too much temperature variation.
နောက်ဆုံးကတော့ဣရိယာပဋ္ဌသဗ္ဗာယတွားရထိုင်လျောင်းပေါ်ဣရိယာပု၄မျိုးအဲ့ဒီဣရိယာပု၄မျိုးထဲမှာအာထုဇယောဂီမှာတော့အိပ်မှတ်တာနဲ့ရမှတ်တာကတော့မသိမြတ်သေးဘူးထိုင်ပြီးတော့မှတ်တာနဲ့ဈဉ္ညာလျှောက်မှတ်တာသိမြတ်တယ်သမထယောဂီတွေမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ပထမဆုံးထိုင်ပြီးတော့မှတ်တာသိမြတ်ပါတယ်နောက်တရားအခြေကျသွားတဲ့အခါကျတော့သမထယောဂီပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်ဝိပဿနာယောဂီပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်တင့်တယ်လို့အရိယပုံနဲ့နေထိုင်ပြီးတော့အားထုတ်လို့ဖြစ်ပါတယ်
The seventh and last sort of suitability is that pertaining to posture. The postures refer to that of sitting, standing, walking, sleeping, lying down. The beginning yogi would find the sitting posture and the walking posture most suitable for his or her practice. And in fact, it would not be recommendable at all for the beginning yogi to attempt to adopt the lying posture or standing posture. For samatha yogis, for yogis who are practicing samatha meditation, the most suitable posture is the sitting posture. And for all yogis, whether Vipassana yogis or samatha yogis, once the momentum of their meditation gets going, then it doesn't really matter. Any of the main postures will be suitable.
အထုဇရပ်ပြီးတော့အားထုတ်ရတာနိုင်မှုကြာတော့ညောင်းလာတာခြေလုံးတွေတောင့်လာတာပဲဒါမှမဟုတ်မသိမြတ်ဘူးပြီးတော့လှဲပြီးတော့အားထုတ်တာလည်းပဲအေးရပေါ်မှာလည်းပဲကိုကြီးကရောက်နေပြီစန့်စန့်ကြီးဖြစ်နေပြီကောင်းကလည်းပဲကောင်းပေါ်ရောက်နေပြီမျက်စိကလည်းမှိတ်ထားပြီတက်တော့တက်တာလည်းပဲမှတ်နေမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အဲ့ဒါတစ်ခုပဲလိုတော့တာပဲအဲ့ဒီလိုတဲ့တစ်ခုကတော့အခြားမဟုတ်ဘူးမကြခင်အိပ်ပျော်သွားတာပဲဌိနမိတ်အားပေးတဲ့အရိယပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တော့အစာပိုင်းမှာရှောင်ရတယ်
The standing posture is not very appropriate for the beginning yogi because it can bring about painful sensations and discomfort in a very short while. After you stand for a while, your legs start to get very tight and taut. You feel a lot of pressure in the legs, and a lot of discomfort begins to arise. That could cause a disruption or distraction of one's practice. The lying posture is also unsuitable. This can be very clearly seen because as one is lying down on one's sleeping place, one is very comfortable lying down, and there is a minimum of effort in keeping the posture, in maintaining the posture, and your head is well rested, and the only thing needed is just to fall asleep. So the lying posture is conducive to sloth and torpor and drowsiness for a beginning yogi. These two postures therefore should be avoided for the beginner.
အဲ့ဒီတပ္ပယခုနှစ်မျိုးလည်းပဲသိသိပြီးတော့ဗောလေဘယ်ဟာလူသေးတယ်လဲဆိုတာကြည့်ဖို့ပါပဲလူတဲ့အရာကိုတော့ဖြည့်ရမှာပါတရားအတွက်လူတဲ့ဟာဖြည့်တာကတော့ lava maဟုတ်ပါဘူးစက္ကာရလည်းမဟုတ်ပါဘူးနာမည်ကြည့်ခြင်းလို့လောက်တာလည်းမဟုတ်ပါဘူးဒါတော့မသက်ဆိုင်ပါဘူးလဘစက္ကာရဒီလောကနဲ့
Well, perhaps you should investigate into your own circumstances and see if any of these 7 types of suitability is present, and if not, then perhaps you should take appropriate steps to ensure that they are fulfilled. This will of course conduce to the development of your practice, and because this is done with the aim of making progress in your practice, it is not in any way concerned or connected with gains, reverence or fame.
အဲ့ဒါလိုလိုအပ်တာတဲ့ပို့ပြီးတော့တမင်္ဂလာလာဘတက္ကရာတိလောကတွေဖြစ်စေမယ်ဖြစ်စေလို့ရရှိတဲ့လာဘတက္ကရာတိလောကနဲ့လည်းပဲဝန္တာကျေနပ်ပြီးတော့အလိုပြည့်နေမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အဲ့ဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဟာနဝမမာရစိတ်တကြီးနေတော့တွေ့နေပြီမှာအဲ့ဒါကြီးမဖြိုနိုင်တော့ဘူး
However, apart from the seeing to these basic necessities essential for making progress in meditation, if one begins to get involved in trying to procure gains, reverence, or fame, and be very satisfied and attached to them when they are acquired, then we can say that such a person has come face to face with the 9th army of Mara.
အဲ့ဒီလောက်တည်းမတင်းနေမဲနဲ့မိမိတမင်္ဂလာကြိုးစားလို့လတ်လာပါပစ္စည်းတွေသူများကပူဇော်မှုပြုတာတွေနာမည်လေးပါလေးကြီးလာလို့ပြေးတာလေးပါလေးနည်းနည်းဖြစ်လာရင်ဒီမှာအချွေရံလေးပါလေးများလာရင်တပည့်ကြီးများလာလို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ကြီးဝင်တယ်စိတ်ကြီးဝင်ပြီးတော့မိမိကသာဘုံကြီးတယ်လတ်လာပါပေါ်တယ်ရှားပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကဘယ်လိုပဲဆိုတာပေါ့လေကိုယ့်ကိုပြည့်မြောက်ပြီးတော့သူများကိုနှိမ့်ချတဲ့သဘောလေးတွေဖြစ်လာတတ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီစင်တီသွားတော့တာပဲယောဂီတွေထဲမှာတော့ဒါမျိုးဖြစ်တာကတော့မရှိလာပါဘူးတရားချင်းပြိုင်လို့ငါတရားကတာတယ်သူတရားကညံ့တယ်ဒါတော့ပါပဲမတော်တော့ခေါက်ဘာမှမပြည့်စုံသေးပဲနဲ့ကမ္မထမ်းစရာလုပ်ပြီးတော့စာပေနဲ့လည်းမကိုက်ညီပဲနဲ့တရားသူတရားရောက်နေပြပြီးတော့မတရားတဲ့အချွေအရာနဲ့ပေါ့လေပိဋကတိကများလာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အဲ့ဒါသူများကိုနှိမ့်ချပြီးတော့ကိုယ့်ကိုပြင်းမြောက်တော့တာပဲအဲ့ဒါတသမတမတော်ကြီးလာပြီးတော့ရင်ဆိုင်နေရပြီ
One may not make a special attempt to gain to procure gain, reverence and fame. But out of one's own practice, these things may come out of the respect and popularity that arises. Out of one's practice, people may start to admire us. People may start to respect us. They start to give us offerings, give us a lot of donations and gifts of various sorts. Start to sing praises, start to applaud, start to spread one's fame around. As a result of all that, it is very easy for the mind to get attached to such gains, reverence, and fame. It is also very easy for the mind to be conceited. One begins to judge and compare. Oh, I'm really great, I'm so popular, so many people, I've got so many thousand students, and so many people hold me in high esteem. I wonder if there's anybody else who's as great as I am. And such thoughts will arise and infiltrate and subvert one's practice. Amongst yogis, however, such thoughts are quite unlikely to happen. If they are just ordinary yogis who come to practice, the most perhaps that could happen to them is self-judgment and comparing with other people. Oh, I'm a better yogi, I walk more mindful. Oh, he looks more mindful, I'm so sloppy, and so forth. It's just this basic comparing of one's practice with other people. This conceit that comes through gains, reverence and fame is more relevant to those yogis who have not really had very good or deep practice. They've had some interesting practice, they have had some interesting experience, and they may become overconfident. They may overestimate their own progress, their own attainments, and they're very quick in wanting to step into the Dhamma scene, to start to teach other people. It is such yogis, such teachers who start to teach a sort of a pseudo Vipassana, that such a condition is most likely to happen. At such a point, one's conceit can get the better of one's good intentions, and one starts not only to preach a method, a technique of pseudo Vipassana that is not in accordance with the texts, due to one's ignorance or one's incompetence with regard to scriptural studies. Other teachers, one starts to exalt one's own ideas, one's own opinions, one's own philosophy, and starts to put down others, to belittle other people. At that point, we say that the 10th army of Mara has stepped into the picture. In connection with this very important and formidable army of Mara, Sayadaw has a lot to say, and in fact, would like to give a discourse based on 2 suttas found in the middle-length sayings, called the Saropama Sutta and the Chula Saropama Sutta. However, since we have run out of time, Sayadaw will deal with this topic in another lecture.